At CIA, there are opportunities for people with a STEM background: science, technology, engineering, and math. There are a few key bases you have to hit if you want to hit a home run and get into CIA. You know, if you want to hit a home run, you have to tag all three bases out there and home plate: first base, second base, third base. At CIA, you need the right background, either military or the right education and experience, right? And usually if you're military, they want you to have an education to go with your military background. When it comes to military, they want you to have an intelligence background, a combat arms background, or a special ops / special warfare background. Rangers, Special Forces, Green Berets, Army helicopter pilots, military intelligence, the Navy SEALs, Marine Recon, Marine Raiders, MARSOC, that kind of thing. Or Marine Infantry, or Marine Security. There's a lot of people in security that head over to CIA too, security and counterintelligence. So the right background in the military is coming out of those things. There's a lot of different disciplines in the military. A lot of military officers, they don't have that background, but they find a little bit of extra experience, education, a certificate or something that pushes them over the top right in there. When it comes to your education, they're looking for people with computer skills. Knowledge of operating systems is really a requirement. It's the basic knowledge you need. And you need to be able to maneuver around an operating system. If you have language skills, they'd like you to know how to use the operating system in the language you know. So if you speak Korean, you'd need to know how to use your phone in Korean, your Windows system in Korean, or so on, right? So you can just switch that to the language and you'll be fine. You'll just learn how to use the computer or the phone using a foreign language. My advice would be to start with a phone. A cheap phone that, you don't worry about too much, because you could screw it up, right? And you'll want to know about databases. Everybody needs to know data these days, and how to search through a database using a language like R, Transact SQL, Python. Those are good tools for someone who wants to work at CIA. And also at NSA. With respect to that, I would say you want to start somewhere like NSA where you can develop your skills a little bit based on your education and experience, and learn some more OPSEC and acquire the clearance you need just to interview at CIA. You're not going to interview unless you have some kind of security clearance, and hopefully it's a top secret. They don't even want to look at you until it's top secret, really, because the people who work there often have a top secret identity, and they don't want you to blow their identity because you're irresponsible, you don't have a good clearance, and so they check your clearance before they interview you, and they make sure you don't have diarrhea mouth, that when you meet them, when you talk about your interview, that it's only in a secure location with the people who are cleared, with need to know about your interview and all that fun stuff you're getting ready to engage in. That is why you need a security clearance before you go to CIA. If you are thinking you can just apply on the CIA website and get there, many of you are going to be confused that that's not going to happen. The interview, the clearance process can take over a year at CIA. Anywhere from 9 months to a year and a half even. What I would say is you can apply, but apply for NSA or DOE, the Department of Energy, or an internship at the Department of Defense in a government agency that requires you to have at least a secret clearance. You'll want to get the secret clearance, and then if you qualify, you upgrade to a top secret. And as you learn security principles and OPSEC, operational security, information security, you'll be more qualified to handle top secret information. You just can't pass a clearance check and get a top secret based on not having a felony. That is not enough, right? We need people who not only don't have felonies and drug convictions, and they're not exploitable because they know a bunch of Russians or something, but we also want people who have a little bit of skill in keeping people off their back and not talking about things they don't need to talk about. It's not just that you're being given access to things because you have a clearance and a need to know. You're also being given the responsibility to protect those things. That's your oath of secrecy that you'll take every time you access information. You'll sign a sworn statement that you won't disclose it, things like that. There are jobs where you go in and out of secure areas every day and you don't sign in every day with the top secret non-disclosure. But, you understand where you are and what you see is classified. So if you want to work at CIA, there are a lot of different roles. Some people are in data processing, they work in information security, they work in information support roles. There's a lot of that. All those jobs at NSA are kind of transferable in that respect. When it comes to biological sciences, there's some of that, and if you want to get the background you need a degree in the biological sciences, and hopefully you get an internship your junior year at a place like either the CDC or the National Institutes of Health, or something like some kind of genomic center, or a place where they do research in like a BSL, like a biosafety lab. They want people who have experience dealing with dangerous things when it comes to biology. At the petting zoo is not exactly what they're looking for. Obviously, there are some dangerous animals, and you could advise people on your knowledge of dangerous creatures, but they look for expertise when they do that. Just somebody with a wildlife degree and a couple of years at the petting zoo is not always someone they're looking for. You need to bring other things to the table, like I said, computer hacking, operating systems, a few computer programming languages. If you don't have those credentials from the degree you got, you can go to edx.org, and there's other providers that provide massively open online courses at a reasonable price. At EDX, courses are $49 or $99. You can take a 10-course sequence in Python or and get a data series, a data analysis type of certificate for data science, or you can get a certificate in C from Dartmouth. You can get a degree for about $10,000 in cybersecurity or data science from Georgia Tech. There are a bunch of online options that are less than $10,000, and people want to take the student loans and waste a lot of money and time. They can go the other route, but as far as something that you can do quickly in less than a year, you can do a data science certificate in 10 months, probably less. In 6 months, if you were really applying yourself at night, you could have a data science certificate and probably a C certificate by doing 2 classes at a time. Take about 18 classes. You could have that done in 6 months. 6 months to 10 months. And then you'd know C, and you'd know data science, and you'd just have to kind of update your knowledge of operating systems. That's important for people of all disciplines. Knowledge of like operating systems and something like C and data science. You think about it, some of the knowledge we want is not in somebody's head, not in somebody's back pocket, not in their safe deposit box, but it's in a computer or a phone. And we want to use human factors intelligence collections, the human, to pick their pocket so we can get into the computer or the phone or their network at work. We do that with the carrot and the stick and with tradecraft. The carrot is we give them an incentive to help us. The stick, if they start to get in the way, if they start to ask for too much, if they start to interfere or threaten us, then we have to hit them with the stick. And some of the things we'd have to do would be nasty, and some people are unprepared to do nasty things to people with a stick. And we're not just talking about the baseball bats and a walking stick or something. What we're talking about are things like not poisoning somebody per se usually, but like making someone sick. Like a GI doctor at CIA might be able to give someone a tummy ache. And we threaten them that if they don't quit bothering us, we're going to give them a tummy ache every day. And sometimes when we cut somebody loose, we have to give them a little stick to let them know that we can run things even if it's their country. And that we don't want them to interfere or talk too much, because we'll give you a dose of what we'll do to you. And they'll try to run to tell on us or something. They won't know who we are anymore, and we have to hit them with the stick. And we don't want them to go after our informant network, which in some cases you would call an agent, but our informants or agents, our agent network, we don't want them to touch them, and we don't want them ratting us out, because that would threaten the security of our people as well as ourselves. So there are roles for doctors, virologists, parasitologists, all kinds of biologists, and they work on issues that involve diseases and other weapons programs that involve viruses and bacteriology and all that. The people who are involved in that are sometimes researchers in the United States or at universities around the world. And we teach people languages sometimes, not just so they can spy on somebody, but so they can hide something from somebody, right? So the knowledge of foreign languages is important even for parasitologists, virologists, bacteriologists, something like that. They need to know foreign language so they can listen to their target as well, so they can communicate without their target knowing what's going on. So there's kind of two languages you need to know in addition to English. You might communicate with your target in English, listen to him or her speak French or Arabic, and communicate with your station in Swahili, Chinese, Korean, something else that you know that is unlikely to be intercepted by your target or people working with your target. Obviously, at some level, somebody's going to understand what's going on. But the people we want to understand are the people we're collaborating with sometimes. That's why we have allies in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the United Arab Emirates and Pakistan. And, that's not necessarily the Middle East, but, Pakistan, India, those countries help us monitor dangerous people sometimes. And we want to be in there talking to them and understand. Some of them want to come to America and study, and we don't know if they're dangerous, but we want to find out. And sometimes while we're in the course of that type of investigation, we reach a point where we do notice they're kind of dangerous, and there might be something going on, and we need to be there for intelligence collection purposes. At that point, it ceases to be a background investigation and it becomes an intelligence collection to try to thwart some terrorist activity or some kind of infiltration scheme they have to get into the U.S. government, or whatever it is they're trying to do. So it becomes a counterintelligence issue, not just a counterintelligence background check. But when it comes to engineering and science, there are a lot of different roles and you do different things. If you're a mechanical and a physics kind of person, you might be good working with nuclear weapons. And a tour at the National Nuclear Security Administration as a fellow, or doing an internship at the Department of Energy in a weapons lab, or in some type of internship in the laboratory environment is very helpful. Everything at DOE is very helpful in the WMD Mission Center. That's our primary avenue into CIA, is from the Department of Energy in a laboratory environment, usually after completing either a bachelor's, master's, or PhD in engineering or hard sciences in physics or applied math or physics and chemistry, as well as a few other engineering, scientific fields, that are directly applied to that. You want people in the WMD Mission Center who have counterintelligence and security experience from the Department of Energy or the National Nuclear Security Administration. And if they have the right degree and that training you can get at Department of Energy, then they understand a lot. A lot of times people in the energy industry, they understand a lot about world affairs. We've seen Rex Tillerson was our man over at the Secretary of State's office, and he knew a lot about world affairs, even if he got a lot of criticism. And maybe he wasn't the best policy director for the State Department, but he was a worldly knowledgeable oil man. And there are a lot of oil men over at the Department of Energy, as well as nuclear people. And they understand world affairs, they understand conflict, they understand war, they understand instability when they're trying to drill for oil or something like that. They understand the risks of nuclear power. They understand a lot of that, and they also understand their own counterintelligence risks to their people. When they try to drill for oil, they have a platform or something. They understand the risk of expropriation from a very, when a country shifts from being a very democratic capitalist country to a socialist kind of controlled country where they're trying to nationalize an industry or something. Oil men who've been around know what that's like, that their refinery or their oil wells all of a sudden became somebody else's property. That's called expropriation. So people in the oil industry, they learn a lot, and they're qualified, kind of jump right into CIA. Sometimes they're already helping a lot. It's helpful if they pick up a clearance and a little bit more training from somewhere like DOE or over in the State Department. Sometimes there are avenues into CIA, obviously from the State Department. The business, international affairs kind of angle is sometimes the way you get into CIA. And over at State, that's a good place. Commerce, State, Treasury, all those are good positions. Law enforcement is a good way in. Homeland Security, all that. But one thing I'll tell you is you always need a security clearance to interview at CIA. It is a very big misconception, and you should figure it out on your own, but I'm going to help you. You need to be able to talk to the person that is interviewing you, and that person is generally someone who's a relatively classified person when it comes to their actual identity and their cover. Their cover when they meet you will be a recruiter usually, and some of them would meet you under other pretenses for the purposes of investigating you and trying to ascertain what your knowledge, skills, and abilities are and how well you handle OPSEC. Things I would tell you about OPSEC and information security. You'll need to have a secure apartment, house, wherever you live. You need to have taken some measures to secure it. Things like putting a little piece of wood or something in your window so people can't crank your windows and steal your TV or come in and use your air conditioner, watch TV and use the internet. Those are important. Now, everyone can afford alarms and new doorknobs and all that, but you should try to get a new locks, put little things on the windows. And why do they do that? Well, they're going to go and they're going to ask your friends a lot of questions. And people think, well, they're going to ask my friends if I smoke pot, if I steal things like that. And that's true. But they're also going to ask, you know, do you know who used to live there? And they're going to find that person. They say, do you still have a key? Could you help me find the person who has the key? That you know, that kind of thing. And then if they can get the key and break in, then you're not the kind of person they want because you don't know anything about security. How are you going to set up a safe house for CIA? How are you going to set up your own apartment overseas if you can't secure it? Right? So you buy an alarm system, you change the locks, you put something over the windows. You do what you can with the money you have. Everybody has an income constraint, right? And they understand college students aren't always multimillionaires. Then what other kinds of things do you use? Do you use VPN, secure VPN, a virtual private network for your computers? That's important, right? If you can afford it, do you use it is another thing. The CIA might offer you a 75-cent secure VPN from Norton, not because Norton offers that, but because they want to see if you'll actually buy it when you're offered a good deal because it's there for you and you're supposed to have it so you can communicate securely. And if you're buying the Chinese version, they want to see how you handle that too because you're probably talking to the Chinese because it's not a Norton product made in America or made in an allied country. It's a product made in Hong Kong or something, pure VPN. It's rated high on CNET, but it's like a Hawaii phone, you know. So if you use that, what are you doing in China? Are you someone who doesn't mind talking to the Chinese and understands that, or are you somebody who doesn't understand that? You're leaking all your personal information to the Red Army, right? So your selection of security products is important. If your bank offers you some kind of debit card monitoring service, do you use it? Do you use LifeLock to monitor your credit card purchases? Yeah, there's a difference between LifeLock and the card navigation app, right? CardNav will monitor your app and you can turn your card off and you can do a lot of things real easy. Do you have it installed? Do you use it? And do you check your bank statements? Do you check your online bank statements? What kind of security do you use when you check your bank statements? CIA might go in, shut your VPN off, and see if you still check your bank statement. Right? You bought VPN, but you didn't know how to use your operating system, and somebody came in and trashed you. Do you recover it? Do you reset your computer? What do you do when there's a problem with information, with your information system? Either the software or the hardware. There are a lot of things that people do that are malicious when you're in the CIA. Even when you're not in the CIA, when you travel overseas to some countries, they do malicious things to your technology. Phones, computers, and even other devices that just so happen to be part of the Internet of Things, right? They might want to shave, they might want to bug your razor or your light bulb or something else. Well, at CIA, or your television, right? Maybe not when you travel, but your television at home is at home and you go to China and someone breaks in and decides they want to watch TV. And there are things like that that can happen, and there's things you can do almost nothing about. And then there are things you can do to mitigate the risks of information intrusions and malicious software and things like that, and malicious... And the other things are things like, how do you respond to phone scams? Do you answer the phone and talk to people? Do you just block those numbers? What do you do when people call you every day? Do you get on the do not call registry list? Or do you answer the phone and say, no, I'm not interested? Do you swear at people and make them mad? there are a lot of things that they evaluate at CIA during that recruiting cycle. And that can begin when you head over to NSA. When you say, well, okay, well, I'm going to get an NSA job and learn about OPSEC. But the CIA say, well, he applied for CIA, then he went and applied for NSA. He got in at NSA. We started doing background check. He's qualified for NSA. You need to learn more before he comes over here. So let's start teaching him. Part of teaching is kind of an attack scenario that you have to live through. And it can be overwhelming for some people, and then they realize he's not cut out. And then they have to evaluate, what is he cut out for? What is she cut out for? Is she cut out for NSA? Is she cut out for the Defense Information Systems Agency? Is she cut out for a job at the Pentagon that doesn't involve a lot of top secret? You know, a secret clearance is good enough to be a Department of the Army civilian in a lot of jobs. So we do like to give people that full 90-day internship and not fire them. And we just want to teach them a little more responsibility when it comes to information. Sometimes we have to downgrade people into responsibilities that don't involve a lot of access. They get upset sometimes, but we point people towards the right agencies and we point people towards the right jobs. What they're qualified for is sometimes what they need to know. And it's not for everybody. If you didn't like the overwhelming social attacks and the overwhelming media attacks and the attacks on your, cyber attacks on your software and hardware, and you probably won't like some things that happen to you at CIA. Some people think that the first thing they need to do is learn how to target somebody, learn how to shoot somebody. A lot of cops are that way. They think, well, I'm a cop, so I'm going to be a hitman at CIA. What you have to learn is how to respond to someone telling you to target something. And you'll get people who try to impersonate a CIA officer and get you to do something like go out and kill somebody. And usually they stop you before you do something that drastic. But they want to see, will you respond to somebody who's not in the chain of command? And your order has to come with an order from the president. So if they are in the chain of command, did it come down the pipe the right way? Was it a covert action order that came from the executive office of the president to go out and kill somebody? And they evaluate that, and they don't just evaluate that on a simulator on a computer, like playing video games. They put you in real-world situations and see how you respond. That's why there's a lot of training, a lot of experience that they want. They want a kid who's 22 years old, but it takes 2 or 3 years before they're ready for CIA. So a kid who graduates from college at 21 or 22 will be 23 to 25 when they start doing real-world missions in the Directorate of Operations, right? And then they need a few years before they're ready to do intelligence analysis, or they just need a lot better education and some real-world experience at the State Department. That's where a lot of analysts come from. But, and you know, it depends on the mission center they do analysis for. It's WMD, it's the Department of Energy who understands the technology, WMD technology, and all kinds of other technology too, robots and software and hacking and firewalls and security. Yeah, there's other things you have to be aware of, and if you're not someone who uses your firewall and updates your virus scan software and uses your virus scan, you're going to have a problem getting in at CIA. Those are things they check. It doesn't seem like a regular background check anymore, does it? It's not. They check to see if you use firewalls. Do you use, if they turn your firewall off, do you turn it back on? Do you reinstall? Do you check to see if there was an update that caused interference in your security on your laptop or your notebook? Do you use like antivirus software and firewall on your phone? Do you use the free one that comes with Xfinity or Comcast or whatever? Or do you like buy something you didn't need? Those are things that pertain to your business judgment, which sometimes comes into play as an operations officer, because operations officers are sometimes trusted with the payroll. They hand you some money and tell you to go pay for things like information, and you entertain people to help them betray their country or their organization, like their military or something, and they don't want people who waste too much money. Those people want American cigarettes, American whiskey, and hookers. And if you spend too much money and you can't afford to pay all your spies, then you're not qualified either. That's why sometimes an engineer with an MBA is real qualified if they have a security clearance and some experience over at the Pentagon or NSA or one of those Pentagon agencies, because they understand money. They had a home loan and all kinds of things. They had a budget. Some of them worked in the contracting field at the Pentagon and understood what things cost, and they understood how to do a little bit of economic analysis to evaluate a project and decide what they're willing to pay and what kind of performance was satisfactory, right? When we talk about performance in a contract, that's where the contractor has to do something for you, and you have to evaluate whether they did it and whether it was satisfactory. Otherwise, you don't work with them anymore. And handling payroll is like finance, and you do human resource work or human resources as an operations officer because you're a recruiter. So it's a bit of counterintelligence and human resources. You do background checks. You want to find the dirt on somebody so they will betray the country once you explain that they've been caught, and then you have to recruit them to help you in some way and explain what they need to do and train them in some cases. You need to train them to do what they need to do. If you're telling a bank teller to walk away with a bunch of documents one night, then you're going to have to teach her how to get it done, and where she can go to grab things, where she can stuff them in her purse, and how she's going to get in and out of the building with that stuff, or she might have to put them back too. Otherwise, things are missing. And we might be able to create some confusion, and we might be able to hack some cameras and do a few things, but we may only have a few seconds for her to get done what she needs to get done. And she's going to need to learn some signaling so that she knows when to go and when to do it. And she might need to learn a little bit about our technology so that we can interface with her, and so she won't get caught. We don't want to be too close to her while it's all going down, because some people get suspicious, especially if she's around foreigners or something. So, there are some kind of pucker factors that go way up while you're doing something dangerous and illegal overseas, and some people aren't qualified for that. They're very qualified for information security, operational security, all kinds of management, project management, engineering, STEM, all that stuff, and they are not qualified one single iota for working overseas and doing illegal operations. That is what we do sometimes. Extortion, blackmail, all those kind of things are things they don't want to be a part of. Doing malicious things to people, hitting people with a stick. They want to say nice things to people and help them, but don't realize that there's another side to that. It's not just the carrot and the sugar cubes that we give the horse. We beat the donkey with a stick. And if they can't handle that, they're not cut out for our agency. And we only want people at CIA who are cut out for our agency. And I speak as if it's still my agency. In many respects, it is. I left CIA, but, the job is not done because people still come after you. If you kill somebody overseas in the CIA, you can upset them. If you kill an Asian person and they're the eldest son, that's somebody's retirement. Their parents usually use their eldest son as a retirement benefit. They give them the best schools and education in hopes they'll get the best job or business. The reason they do that is they don't have Social Security Administration in Korea or Japan or China. They have eldest sons, and those eldest sons, they respect and honor their parents, and when they get too old to work, they bring them into the home, and they take care of them. There's no nursing home for them. It's not just that there's no nursing home, it's that their home is it's the nursing home, I guess, but it's also a form of Social Security. It's what they expect is their oldest son will repay the favors they've done to them. And they say, well, they didn't diversify through all the family members. It's just not how they handle it. But if you have to smoke somebody who's an eldest son, you've just killed their Social Security investment, because they invested in that person to send them to college, to get them a great job, or to get them a company. Someone would start a company with money the parents had or something, so that they would be secure in retirement. And so if you smoke somebody, that can follow you home. They want to hit you through their ethnic network, and they'll buy contracts in some cases to harm you. In some cases, it's they want you to pay them back, in which case they want to steal ideas from you. That kind of thing happens. We're over there stealing ideas, and they say, well, an eye for an eye, we should steal ideas from him. Or sometimes they want you to feel the pain of their son, and they want you to have some kind of excruciating pain. And they know it's difficult if they come from an allied country to kill you or something, because there's police who watch what they do, what they say, and they can track it down in ways that Americans usually can't track it down. So that's what I would tell you. There's a lot of misconceptions about how to get into CIA and what it takes, but I can tell you from my experiences what some of the bases you need to hit on the way in.